everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Melanie and today we are going to talk about all the books I've read in February, and I've read a lot in February, so grab a snack, grab something to drink because it's gonna be a long video. So to start off, I'm gonna give you some numbers and stats and stuff. So I have my computer here to remind me of what they are. In February, I've read 16 books. How it happens, I don't know. For a total page count around 6,500 something. And in terms of ratings, I have 1 2 stars, 1 DNF, 5 3 stars, 4 4 stars, and 6 5 stars. So it's quite good. I'm very happy with what I've read. And in terms of genre, I'm all over the place, as you can see, but I've read, I'm on a murder mystery kick, so I'm really enjoying that type of books right now. And the thing is, on the stats I made is with per books, but if I did it per pages, I'm pretty sure high fantasy will be higher than this because I've read The Way of King this month. And if you wonder how I've read so much, it's because I've read 50% of them on audiobooks, so while I was on the go or doing something else, so yeah. And I just realized that I've read 12 books by women and 4 books by men, so I'm quite happy with that stat. So that's it with the numbers and stuff. Let's go into the books and the reviews and stuff. So to start with, I'm gonna start with my DNF, and my DNF is the life-changing of not giving a fuck. And well, the concept of it was explained quite early in the book, and I grasped it, and I didn't really get why it needed a whole book to be explained. For me, I've read the like kind of 30 first pages or something, and then I looked at the contents and the chapters and stuff, and not so many things interested me. As I was reading the content page, it was like nothing really grasping my attention, wanting to read it, so I just give it up. And it had the word fuck written every other sentences, and it got annoying. At first it was like kind of funny, like hey, but it got annoying very fast, and no, I was not really interested in getting that notion. I don't know. So I concentrated on other books, and I'm gonna go through them as my lowest rated to my highest rated. And my lowest rated, I'm kind of disappointed, but it's the La Belle et la Bête, The Beauty and the Beast. So I've started this thing where I buddy read French classics over on Instagram with some nice ladies. And this month's pick was The Beauty and the Beast, and I was very eager to read it because I actually never read the classic. And I had 2 copies, one in French, one in English, with the beautiful illustrations and stuff from Minanima, which I've learned is the studio that does the illustration of all the wizarding world of Harry Potter. So that's quite cool. But so I read this one first, and I like these editions in French because they have a little key things here about the life of the author, the inspiration for the book, and like what's going on in the world as she was alive. And I realized that there were actually, of course, many different versions of The Beauty and the Beast, and there are mainly 2 big versions that we know about and read about nowadays. And one of them is by Madame Leprince de Beaumont, and the other one is by Madame Gabrielle-Suzanne, Barbot de Villeneuve. This whole name, I only saw it on this edition. It's usually Madame de Villeneuve only. But anyway, 2 women, which is kind of funny because they are the only women classics that I've found in French classic literature. So yeah. And I didn't enjoy any of them. So I've read this version first, and this version is super short. You can find it like for free on ebooks because they don't have any royalties anymore, because it's been written for so long, but it's like 50 pages or something, and it's quite dull. The characters are very shallow. The only thing that the prince has going for him, or the beast, is that he's cute. Woohoo! And that's the whole. That's just the one thing that we have about this character, is that he is partly stunning and beautiful, and that's why Beauty falls in love with him, because he's beautiful. And Beauty, her traits as a character is that she's nice and she's polite and she loves her daddy. That's pretty much all we have about her. So yeah, it was nice to read in French for a while, especially classics, because they tend to be quite difficult in English. But so I finished this. I was like, okay, I'm gonna read this one, which is 200 pages, so there should be more in this story. And the beginning was following quite closely with this one in terms of like the pace of the story. I was like, why is there 100 more pages if everything is said in the first part of the books? Because pretty much the beast, spoiler, the beast changed into the prince like halfway in the book. I was like, what's gonna happen with the rest? Are we gonna have a very long happy ending or something? And it's the prince telling his version of the story. So we have like is growing up, and then he tells every single thing that happened from the Beauty point of view. He tells about himself. I was like, okay, we kind of gathered once you said you were the prince. We kind of gathered what happened, but yeah. And then it's not finished. We have the fairy who rescue him, that tells her version of the story, and apparently Beauty is actually a princess. She's not a peasant or anything. Of course not, because who could let a peasant marry a king or a prince? What? So yeah, I just didn't really, at the end I didn't really care. I like skimmed the last 20 pages, because I was like, you're gonna tell me how actually Beauty is like a beautiful princess, and I don't know, I didn't really care. And the illustrations, they are beautiful. I really like them anyway. But I didn't think they bring anything to the story. Sometimes the illustration were not at the point in the story where this or that was explained, and they didn't add anything to the story. Like I don't know, where is it? We have this beautiful map of the Fortunate Island that we hear about once in the book or something, and I don't know. It felt like a scam that I fell for. Anyway, let's get on with it with another rant. So I've read The Golden Notebook by Doris Lessing, and I don't know how to rate it, because I don't think it's something you can rate from a 0 to 5-star ranking system. So I used the Copile system from G over on Bookroast's channel. I put her link in the description. And it's a system where you rate the character, the plot, the intrigue, and etc. Until you get a ranking on the 5-star system. And it got around like 2.5, 3 stars, something like that. Doris Lessing is a Literature Nobel Prize winner, and this book is very feministic. It explores different themes that are super interested. The format of it is very interesting as well. We follow Anna Wolf, who is an author who read a first book that had a lot of success, and you follow her life as she's kind of having a life crisis. So she writes about her life in different notebook. The black notebook about her life in Africa, the red notebook about her conviction her political conviction as a communist, the yellow notebook where she invents another persona and other characters that pretty much live the same life as hers. That's how she reflects on what's going on in her life. And then the blue notebook, who is pretty much a diary, and her going to a therapist and stuff like this. And it has super interesting concept. There are quotes in there that really shaped me to my core, stuff that felt very, very close to me. But it was way, way, way too long. It was around 30-hour book, 30-hour read on audiobook, and like 95% of it was just gibberish. No, but like not interesting, not compelling. There were some bits that compel me to go forward and read it, and I did it. I not DNF it because one of my good friend told me that this book changed her life, and she wished she had read it when she was my age, because that would have impacted her life in a good way. And I kind of understand that, but like not the whole book. The whole book is, for me, I am not into literature enough to understand every single concept, to see behind the words or the meaning, and or the critique of the society or stuff like this. I don't know, it was too much for me. There were some very, very shocking scenes in that book, but like in a good sense, about women talking about their relationship with men, both emotionally and then sexually, women talking about their bodies, and it's stuff we're not used to see in books even now, and I really enjoyed that thing. But it's a very, very harsh critique of male domination and entitlement to privilege. And if you're not ready for that, then and you are a man, then it might be a bit too much for you. I've taken some notes, so I'm gonna read them to you. There are some big questions in that book that they are not answered. They're just here to make you think. And some of them are: what happens when we become disillusioned with our political ideas? How do we reconcile the various parts of ourselves? Sexual being, responsible parents, sympathetic partner, loyal friend, concerned global citizen. Can we integrate them? How do we define good person? And why is it good damn so hard to find? And I really enjoy to have a book giving me so much foods for my thoughts. I really like that, but it was 5% of it for me, and then the 95% of the rest was I was annoyed. So yeah. Whew, that was 2 big rants. Okay, we have so many more books to go through. Okay, I'm gonna pick up my pace. The Wise and the Wicked by Rebecca Podos. I enjoyed that story. It's a young adult magical realism where we follow a girl, I forgot her name already, Ruby. We follow Ruby, who is a descendant from Russian, so you have a lot of Russian folklore in there. She is bring up by our 2 big sisters, and she has a big family but of only women, and it is the story of her as she becomes of age into her family. You get to see a glimpse of who you are when you're going to die, and so that's the story of her and her cousin getting those revealed to themselves, and then trying to understand more about their family and their culture. And it was super interesting. There are a few LGBT character in there, and I quite enjoyed the story. I enjoyed more the side characters than the main character, but the story ended up, I think you need to know that before going in. The story ended up in a very open-ended kind of thing, and it's not sure, like it's a standalone, but maybe it's gonna become a series if there is enough person reading it. So you might feel very unsatisfied closing that book. I know I did, but other than that, it's a beautiful story, and I liked what it did for cultural point of view and the discussion around death and morality. How do you decide what is moral or not? I enjoyed that book too, The Wise and the Wicked. Then I love Agatha Christie. I don't know if I said that already or not, but this year I want to go through a little bit more of her work, as I've read maybe 5 or 10 of them, but it wasn't maybe like 10 years ago and in French, so now I want to do it right. And I start at the beginning with the Mystery Affair at Style. It's the first Hercule Poirot, and it's the first story printed by Agatha Christie, and it's 100 years old this year. I only knew that when I finished that book. They're doing a challenge over on Agatha Christie official website, and I want to be part of it, so I will make a video about that. But yeah, so I've read this. First, Hercule Poirot. Of course, you follow Hastings in there. He's the one telling the story. It's the story of a murder by poisoning, and we trying to understand who's gonna inherit of the whole thing, and it's in an old English manner, of course, and there's a huge cast of possible suspects. I didn't guess. Poirot, it's the most annoying detective ever, but you love to hate him, so I think that's why people love him so much. But yeah, I enjoy myself with this read. So I've also read the whole Truly Devious series, starting with Truly Devious, The Vanishing Stair, and then The Hand on the Wall. And I'm not gonna go too much in depth here. It's a young adult murder mystery novel where we follow 2 timelines, one in the 30s and one in our times. It's in a boarding school with a lot of games and tricks, and yeah, if you want to know more, I did a whole review video, spoiler and non-spoiler, so yeah, you can check that out. I'll put it here. Moving on, because this video is going to be very long, I've read The Caves of Steel by Isaac Asimov. It's in his reading list. It's the 2nd book, so I am here now. And we follow a detective called Elijah Bailey, and has his he's trying to solve a murder, and he has a robot companion, and he really doesn't like robot. A lot of human on Earth don't like a robot and having robots around, so they have a very, very deep prejudice against them, and he has to overcome that in order to solve the mystery. And I really liked the dynamic between the duo, and I really liked learning more about Asimov's vision of the future and of the Earth and of the human colonization of the solar system and beyond. And I really want to read more. There is something in there premised that should be involved in the rest of there's 3 other books with that detective and robot duo, so I think they're gonna explore that in the other 3, and I can't wait to actually read the others. I really enjoyed myself with The Caves of Steel, and it felt good to be back into a little bit of science fiction as well. Then I've reread for another time Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, or Les Reliques de la Mort. Of course, always enjoy Harry Potter. It's the last book in the series, and it felt bittersweet to say goodbye to those characters for now. I don't like the cursed child thingy, so this is the last book canon for me for this story, and I want to start again to the beginning because I just love those characters so much, so much. So this month was also as well the launch of the new graphic novel for Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. I have the ebook right here. I wish I had paperback copy of those. And it's a graphic novel following 2 male characters. I'm very bad with names, I can't remember the names. But it's just the story of them in high school in England and falling in love, trying to figure out their sexuality and life. And I love it. It's just super cute. There is a big presentation of LGBTQ plus character in this in those graphic novel, and other things that need to be talked about more. And it's just so sweet, and I love reading this story. I've reread the two other graphic novels that are already out in the coming of this one, and it's just I love this story. I love those characters. I believe there is a novel called Nick, and that's one of the characters' name, Nick, and it's not David, can't remember, Charlie, Nick and Charlie. There is a novel written about them by Alice Oseman as well, and I think I'm going to read it soon. I believe it is maybe on Scrib, so look for that, because I would be super happy to be reading it. And I've read a non-fiction as well. I like starting my month with a non-fiction. It's like a palette cleanser, kind of like murder mystery. It's like a palette cleanser in between heavy high science fiction or high fantasy and stuff. And I've read From Here to Death, Traveling the World to Find the Good Death by Caitlin Doughty, I believe that's her name. She is an American who is funeral home owner, and it's the story of her traveling the world to see different cultures and how they handle death and their relationship to death and their dead. And it was so eye-opening. It's true that we don't talk a lot about death in our Occidental culture. We kind of like push this under the rug, and we're like, what? Death? No, it's never gonna happen. Not to me or my close one. And until it does, and then it's a huge shock for people when death comes around. And in other culture, they handle it very differently. They live where they're dead. They don't regard it as something dirty or that needs to be put away from society. Sometimes it is very included in society. So it was very, very eye-opening to me. It's something that we talk about in my family, but I know not a lot of family talk about it, and sometimes it creeps people a lot just to mention death or what to do with your body once you're dead. Like if you want to be an organ donor or not, just asking that question may be very offensive for some people. And I loved reading this. It was not like cringy or creepy at all. It was made in a very, very beautiful and respectful way, and I love that about it. So you go in different countries, in South Asia, in Japan, in Mexico, in Spain, in the USA, in different places in the USA, and you learn more about the different ways to either get buried or get lit. Different ways of honoring your body in this life, the death as well. So I really, really enjoyed this book, and I recommend it for you to read as well, and tell me what you think about it. And I saved the best for last, of course. I've read this massive piece of The Way of King. It's made in 2 books for the UK version. It's only one big book for the US version. And so the first part I've read, and until like halfway into it, I was not like sold, like I need more, I love it. I was just like, okay, it's a nice story. And then some other character were introduced to us, and I was like, oh. So I realized that I haven't told you anything about this story. It's of course Brandon Sanderson book. It's the first installment in the Stormlight archive series. So it's a whole world invented where there is different type of magic, different type of people and class, and there is pretty much a big huge war going on, and that's what we're following in this first book. If you want to know more about it, if you really want to understand what this book is about, I recommend for you to go see Michael Nip video on The Way of King, because he did a spoiler-free and then a spoiler section video that is beautiful, and he explains everything so well, and yeah, just I'll put it somewhere here so you can just quickly go and watch that if you want more information on the Way of King. But yeah, basically we follow different characters from very, very low in the society and very, very high in the society. We follow a prince, and that's kind of my favorite character. He is maybe in his 50s, 60s, and I like to follow characters that are not in their prime anymore. Because we don't really see that a lot. We usually see a lot of young, very dynamic, very active character that want to make history, that want to change things and stuff. And we don't really see older people that live through that and still want to change or still want for the world to get better and stuff. But they're not in that position in life anymore. So I really enjoyed that. And there is another character as well who is a female and scholar. And she's around 18, and it's her trying to get an education, and I really enjoyed that part as well. So that's all that I'm gonna say about the Way of King. If you want to talk with me about it, I would love it. I would love to chat more about it. I'm gonna read the second one, The Words of Radiance, this month. So if you want to talk more about it, please leave me comments and we can chat. So that's it for this wrap up. If you want to join me into my French classic buddy read for the month of March, we're gonna read L'École des Femmes, The School for Wives by Molière. It's a play, and I don't know anything else about it. So let me know down in the comments. I'll add you to our groups over on Instagram so we can chat about our thoughts as we are reading it. And other than that, if you've read any of those or if you want to read any of those, leave me a comment so we can chat more about it, and leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I see you in another video. Bye!